Good evening, everyone. Yes, I said good evening. Today we're going to learn about mid segments of trapezoids and kites. You guys are getting kind of a strange lesson today, being you guys are watching this on YouTube instead of me presenting it in class. I wanted to try what they call a flipped classroom. What's going to happen is you're going to watch this video as your homework, and then come tomorrow you're going to have it in class to work on it. So, again, we're going to learn about mid-segments of trapezoids and kites. Excuse me. The mid-segment of a trapezoid is the segment that connects the midpoints of the legs. What that says is, midpoints, remember, cuts my sides into two equal parts. And then those points, if I draw across, is my mid-segment. One key thing here is I got my two sides that are equal, or split into equal parts. Then I have my two bases and my mid-segment. They're all going to be parallel. So we start off with, we get to our first theorem today. Make sure you write this down into your theorems. Theorem 8.17. The mid-segment of a trapezoid is parallel to each base, and its length is the average of the bases of the trapezoid. So to find that length, all we would do, B1 plus B2 all over 2. Base 1 plus base 2 all over 2. That's going to equal our mid-segment. So I'll give you a couple seconds to write this down. You might need to press pause. So in this diagram, we need to find the mid-segment, or MN. So what we know is that base 1 is 12, base 2 is 28. It doesn't matter if I wanted to call base 2 12 and base 1 28. I could do that. All we have to do is add them together and divide by 2. 12 plus 28 is 40. 40 divided by 2 is 20. So we know that MN is 20 inches. So now we're going to have to think back to our lesson today. It says, use the diagram of trapezoid EFGH if EG is equal to FH. So from E to G, if that distance is the same as F to H, is trapezoid EFGH an isosceles trapezoid? So we think back to today's lesson, or if you're watching it on Friday, Thursday's lesson, we have to think about our theorems. Is there any theorems that talks about the diagonals being congruent? Because remember, if I say EG equals FA, it's the same thing as saying congruent. And there is. That's theorem 8.16. That says if the diagonals are congruent, then the trapezoid is isosceles. Yes, I had to go look up and spell it. Okay, so being we know that they are congruent, then we know this trapezoid is an isosceles trapezoid. Then our next one, the measure of angle HEF. So this angle up here, that's 70 degrees. The measure of FGH, that's down here. This is 110 degrees. We want to know, is this trapezoid EFGH an isosceles trapezoid? So we've got to think real hard we're going to have to go back to consecutive interior angles. We're going to fall back to consecutive interior angles. We have our consecutive interior angles. We know that angle HGF, so angle HGF plus angle EFG must equal 180 degrees. So if I quickly substitute, $110 in for HGF, then subtract my 110. Angle EFG equals 70. So now we know that two angles, I have our two angles here, they're both next to the same parallel line, are both 70. We can fall back knowing that in an isosceles trapezoid, two base angles, so two base angles that are congruent will make a trapezoid isosceles. Therefore, angle E and angle F are base angles and 70 degrees. We know that trapezoid EFGH is isosceles. Don't need the extra S. Trapezoid. Okay. Ooh, kind of a fun one here. Probably my favorite problem of the day. In trapezoid, JKLM, angle J and angle M are right angles, and JK equals 9 centimeters. The length of the mid segment and P of the trapezoid JKLM is 12 centimeters. So we need to sketch it, and then we need to find the mid segment, or excuse me, the side end length, or base length. So starting off right away, pretty poor. I'm going to erase that and try again. Got my trapezoid. I got J, K, L, M. And I knew that angle J and angle M are right angles. The other two angles don't matter. And I know my mid segment and P and I know that JK is 9 and P is 12. ML, we don't know. We need to find ML. So what we're going to do, we're just for right now going to call that X. So I know that using our mid-segment formula, 9 plus X over 2 equals 12. So what I'm going to do, just use our algebra skills. Know that I have to cancel out dividing by 2 first. So to do that, I'm going to multiply by 2. When I do that, my 2's cancel. Got 9 plus X equals 24. I'm just going to subtract my 9. X is going to equal 15. 15 centimeters. Alright, so what we're going to take a look now at is kites. A kite is a quadrilateral that has two pairs of consecutive congruent sides, but opposite sides are not congruent. Okay? Sounds kind of strange, but if you want to write this down, go ahead. A kite is a quadrilateral that has two pair of consecutive congruent sides, but opposite sides are not congruent. What that would look like is something like this. This side and this side are the same. That side and that side are the same. Got two more theorems. When I get done going over them, you're probably going to need to hit pause and make sure you get them wrote down. Haven't figured out how much time I need to give you, because I'm just reading them. But our first one, theorem 8.18. If a quadrilateral is a kite, then the diagonals are perpendicular. So my diagonals make the right angle. You can see that in this kite here, A, B, C, D. If you draw your diagonals from A to C and B to D, they form a right angle. My second theorem, theorem 8.19, if a quadrilateral is a kite, then there is exactly one pair of opposite angles that are congruent. Key here, key, huge key, exactly one pair. Okay, the other two angles, angle B and D in this example, are going to be some unknown value. Okay, we're not going to know what that is until we figure it out. So again, you're probably going to need to pause right now to quickly make sure you write these down. These are great to have in your theorem sheet. Remember, you'll be able to use that for the test. Alright, so we have a picture of a kite here. We know that angle E is 124 degrees. Angle G is 80 degrees. And we need to find measure of angle D. Well, problem here comes, we don't know what angle D is, and we don't know what angle F is. But we know they have to be the same because 124 and 80 are not the same. So you know that 124 and 80 aren't the same. So what we're going to do, we're just going to go 124 plus x plus 80 plus x. Those four sides have to equal 360 degrees. Remember that it's a four-sided figure, so it's a quadrilateral, has to equal 360 degrees. All we're going to do quickly is simplify. So 204 plus 2x equals 360. Add in my numbers and combine my like terms. Subtract 204. Subtract 204. I have 2x equals 156. Divide by 2. Divide by 2. X equals 78 degrees. So I know that angle D is 78 degrees. I also know that angle F is 78 degrees. So we got another one of these. In a kite, the measure of the angles are 3x, 75, 90, 120. I don't have a drawing here. I don't need a drawing. I don't care what the drawing looks like. I just know that 3x plus 75 plus 90 plus 120 has to equal 360 degrees. So I'm going to add them up. All of my x's are combined. But 3x plus 285 equals 360. Subtract 285. Three x equals 75. Divide by 3. Divide by 3. X equals 25. Now something that some of you might be thinking right now is, well, I could have just said 3x equals 75. And then not had to go through and do all this work. Our problem comes here We don't know what two angles are congruent. Heck, it could have been 3x and 90, or 3x and 120. They didn't tell us what two angles were congruent, so we had to go through and do all this work. If they would have told us that 3x equals 70 and 3x and 75 are congruent, we could have just done that. All right. Hopefully this video worked. We're going to talk about it in class and give you the whole class period to work on your homework. Just something wanted to try. Main thing to remember though today, mid-segments of trapezoids. Mid-segments of trapezoids is the average of the bases. Okay. Second thing, kites. The diagonals are perpendicular. Also, kites have exactly, a little emphasis there, exactly two congruent angles. Exactly two congruent angles. Key things to remember. The other thing you're going to want to make sure you do is have in your notes the 3 theorems we covered today. Okay, so you might need to go back and look at them, or maybe you pause the video. Remember, you can have those on your test. I look forward to seeing you guys in class tomorrow or later today, depends on when you're watching this. We'll talk to you later.